Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I'm going to preview this, and then we're going to stop the video while I go do some work, and then we're going to come back to it. This is the Okuma Contender 20L. It came to the shop. It's got a broken button for the clicker. I don't think we're going to be able to replace that, but we'll at least seal that, or we'll try to seal that. When you crank the reel, you can tell that we've got the issue inside here where it's engaged when it broke. We also notice that everything else seems to be working pretty good. So what I'm going to attempt to do is clean out this side, close that hole if I can, and redo the reel showing you the technology behind it. But before I get started, I'm going to pause the reel, pause the video here. I'm going to strip the line off. So I'll be back after that's cleaned up, and we'll take this reel apart. We'll show you how to address that issue with the clicker, and we'll also show you the insides of the reel and what the technology is all about. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm back. I've stripped off the line on this reel. We're going to take it apart. We'll see if we can't at least silence the noise that's coming from this side from the missing click. And we'll take this side apart, we'll lube it up, and I'll just advise whoever wants to buy this reel that the click function has been disabled. So I'm going to go to the non-gear side first. I know that's a little bit opposite of what I normally do, but that's where we know the problem is. So let's get over there and get this done with before we go any further. Because if there's something trashed in here, and it doesn't make sense to continue, there's no sense taking the other side of this apart. So let's just get in there. There's 4 screws that attach this. We can talk a little bit about the prelims while we go through this. I always recommend wearing a latex glove to protect your hands from the oils and junk that are present inside the reels. I also recommend a parts tray, which you're seeing me put the screws into. And I always suggest taking pictures. So here you go. Here's the screw that belongs on the click. Here's the disabled click ring. And we might be lucky. There might be another part in here. I'm not seeing it. There should probably be another part in here that would have been the other side of this. I'm thinking it probably went this way. Well, no. Alright, well, we're going to take that button out, and before we go do anything else, I'm going to take the click ring off as well. You don't have to, but I just want to check to make sure that everything underneath it is as it should be, and that we don't have any pieces and parts trapped in here. Okay, we don't. I'm going to put this back in case somebody wants to restore it. I imagine you could go and get a button to restore. And I will leave that click tongue along with the reel here. And in the event that somebody wants to restore, they can have that click tongue as well. I actually could, if I wanted to, embed that in here. Maybe we'll go do that. We'll embed that in there, and then we can run a little screw through the two. I don't have one. Well, maybe I do. Let's see what we got here. I don't have the one that I'm thinking about at the moment. It'll show up eventually. What I'm thinking of doing, I'll just use this as an example. Get a stainless screw like this. Oh, this one's too thick. Kind of put the cap nut in like that. Put a little nut on the back of that to hold that there, and also to close it up from water intrusion, but we'll do that in a little while. Right now I'm just going to remove that, maybe come back to that at the future. It's a nice reel. It's got a solid metal spool. The spool is in good condition. Take the 2 of these, we'll put that over there. We got a nice drive that's being driven by that large wheel in the other side, and the click mechanism is working fine. Let's go over to the gear side then, take that apart, show you what this reel is made out of, show you how to service it after we take it apart, and how to reinstall. Like I said, the The rest of this kind of checked out when we were doing it, so this reel probably will go fishing again. It just won't have that click feature. I'm going to remove the handle nut. That's a 10mm nut into the parts tray. Take that handle off. Notice where the tension washer is. Now we can unwind the star adjuster. 4 screws on this side. Let's go ahead and take those off. Now these screws, you can take them off with a Phillips head or with a flat blade. You saw me using the flat blade on the other side. And if these were near the same size as the ones on the other side, I would separate them, but these are longer. Just a mental note here, they are longer screws, so shouldn't have any problem in figuring out which screws go on which side plate. I'm expecting to see, I haven't been inside one of these reels in at least a year, maybe 2, maybe longer. So what I'm kind of expecting to see here is commonly what looks like a Shakespeare Tidewater reel. Now let's go see. Use the force of these. I always found it interesting. Some of the Okumas are almost boilerplate to the Shakespeares, and yet they're competitors. Yeah, this is pretty much what a Shakespeare looks like inside. So let's go ahead and show you how to do this then. We're going to take the click ring off this, click ring C-clip. Be careful, you lose this one, you're going to have a dickens of a time trying to find the part. Although I have called Okuma. They're in California, and they've been very helpful to me in the past, but most of those have been on the newer reels, so just be careful as you do this. Okay, so we've got the clip out, the E-clip. Now we're going to see that it's held on here by 2 side plate screws. Again, note the orientation of these. That's going to take the bridge plate off, and then we'll have the gearing and everything else underneath. Here's your second one. Then we've got a series of screws, so be careful as you remove this then. And quite honestly, I've forgotten that you also need to take the trip off. Now a lot of times folks get to this point if something's sprung and they throw their hands in the air because, well, quite honestly, looks like it's a mess and you get all screwed up. I would suggest that you find the schematic for these. It's a blueprint of how to put it back together again, and it'll save you sending the reel to me to rebuild. Okay, so that's the free spool mechanism. Comes off the eccentric here. This is the yoke. Underneath the yoke you have the 2 springs. Inside the yoke you have the spool gear. This is the anti-reverse dog. And here's your main gearing. So we have a ball bearing to the back side of the reel, or the front side of the reel, I guess, in this situation. And we have the bushing to the front. So let's just take this apart. There's 2 shim washers. I'm getting a little careless here, so let's take the pieces that we've taken out. I'm going to put them in a separate tray here. I want to leave some of these because I'm working on the drive now. We can pull the shaft. That's got a washer underneath, and this is the throw that's going to pop the free spool back into gear. And then we just want to check the drag washers. Like I said, I tested this before I purchased the reel, and I expected to see what I'm seeing here, which is a nice clean set of drags. Now these haven't been lubed in a while. They're kind of sticky. You can see a little bit of debris on that center one with the ears. So I'm going to take a piece of steel wool, just clean that right off, and that'll make the drag slip again. This is 4-0 steel wool. Don't get any more aggressive than 4-0 steel wool. Okay, so the setup on these is pretty much the same setup that's on all of the 6 drag system. 3 metal, 3, in this case, the composite. So I'm just going to load it right back on the way they came off. I'm going to put the main gear back on. That's got the first one in here. Go ahead and put the second, first of the metal washers. We'll put the second of the composite washers. Now they're composite, they don't need to be oiled. There's the second, the eared one that we just cleaned up. It's your last one of the composites. Here's your top washer, and on top washer you had 2 shim washers that came with the bushing. Top of the bushing we had 1 more shim washer. So that's the drive stack there. And that drive stack is going to just sit itself right in from behind. And then this. So next up we want to set the anti-reverse dog. That anti-reverse dog gets set over that pin, and it has the little hole that is going to align the bridge. Next up we want to get it set in that tooth there, and then the spring gets loaded back from whence it came. This might get off camera here for a moment, but kind of hard for me to grab that. Sometimes it's easier to load that spring and then come back the other way with it, but right now we're going to try it this way. There we go. So we have the spring loaded now. That's the spring load. When we have the spring loaded, then everything is pretty much ready for the bridge plate reassembly. This takes, unfortunately, this takes more than one little hand here. Let's go grab that bridge plate. Now you want to you have to do a couple of different things here. You have to align to the various holes and constituencies there. In this case, I'm thinking I'm behind on that anti-reverse dog. Now we're pretty well set. Okay, so grab one of those screws. These are the case screws for the bridge. Grab the other screw. And that one's longer because that one has the anti-reverse dog on it. And we have the little shim washer that goes on the back of the gear shaft. And we have that little E-clip that's next. And I'm using needle nose pliers to compress that. I'm holding it. That E-clip can shoot pretty easily. We'll give it a test here. There we go. That's a balancing act. But that's what's needed here. Okay, let's turn our attention then to putting the rest of this back together. We've disabled the click mechanism here. As I mentioned, I'd probably come back and put a screw in there, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to go do that. Okay, so we've got the shaft for the line guide. Got the shaft that fell out before, which I just put back in. Now we can put the cover back on. That's going to hold all of this in. You have to mesh this. It does take a little bit of patience. There you go, that's meshed. I'm going to put the 4 short screws in. We're going to remember which ones were which here. Seems like hours ago that we started with this side plate here. Let's get these back in before we get too much. And I was using a flat-bladed one there. It can be both, but the flat-bladed screwdriver seemed to have worked better on the way out. So let's go ahead and put those short screws back in. So this is a durable little reel. It's not a high-priced one by any means, and I don't even think it's on the market anymore. I think when we started this video, I probably called it the Convector. I do believe the Convector is still on the market. I don't think the Contender is. And they were reasonably well priced. As you can see inside, there's not a lot going on to these by today's standards anyway, for a low profile or a smaller chassis saltwater lake level line kind of fishing reel. But these are durable. They don't rust and rot too much because of the graphite or the plastic casing. The gearing, like I said, it's a proven technology. It's a little funky, as you saw going through there. A little bit of a balancing act getting it in and getting it out, but at the end of the day, it's fine. I'm going to put a little bit of blue grease onto the drive here. Got a solid, where's the blue grease? A solid spool assembly, and you can pull some pretty big fish in on this. I wouldn't be shy. Okuma makes a good product. Okay, we'll just throw that back in here. I'm just going to give it a spin before I go any further. Make sure that that line guide is working properly, which it is. Now we can go ahead and grab the side plate. Put a little bit of blue grease onto the shaft there. Bring this together. Look at this. So what we've done is we've taken a reel that was whiny and complaining and overall a miserable reel that somebody said I had enough of this, kind of sold it for a few dollars, and with a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of know-how, we've been able to put this thing back. We've disabled the clicker, which was the feature that broke. Like I said, I'll be straight up front and forward with anybody who I might be selling this to, that you do not have the click mechanism. I'll also tell them that they should, as a practice, wash this reel off, because you could get water intrusion through that click button hole. Maybe I'll even go so far, as we discussed earlier, to take the time and go put a screw in there to kind of prevent that. A little nut and screw could block that hole to some extent, but I don't know what's in the back there, whether that'll interfere with the spool operation or not, and I don't have time on this video right now to go ahead and find that out. But I'm liking this one. Very nice. Going to free spool. Free spool's working well. You have an adjuster here. Okay, and then the last thing we'll do is, since we're doing a service on it anyway, come over here and we will service that pawl. Just to keep that fresh. The pawl is sitting in the bay here now. I don't make a practice of removing it. There's no need to. Just throw a drop of oil or two onto the pawl. Reset the cap. And we'll put the handle on, and this one will be ready to go back fishing without the okay. Tension spring. Handle. You have 2 slots. You can go for a big throw or a short throw on that. Handle nut, 1mm nut. Cap. Need to make sure it's aligned with the screw hole so that you can get the cap screw in there. Tighten that down. Alrighty, that's done. There you go. The Okuma Contender 20L without a clicker, rebuilt to go fishing. Tighten down the drags. Yep, drags are working fine. Okay, that's it. So the only thing that's in my parts tray, 1 screw and 1 click tongue, and as I mentioned, I'll put them in an envelope and I'll attach that to the reel here, and if somebody wants to find the button mechanism and restore, they can. I don't fish with the clicker personally. Some folks like to live line and let the line out in free spool, and that click will make them aware that there's a fish on there, but I don't do that. So I'll hope that the fellow or gal that decides to go purchase this reel doesn't need that click function, or if they want to restore it, they can go do it themselves. So that's the Okuma Contender 20L. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it and subscribe. And questions and comments are always welcome. So send me a note if there's something I can answer for you. Again, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.